If I told you that one single road in Dallas is costing almost $2 billion to rebuild, would you believe me? Because that's exactly what's happening. At a jaw-dropping $158 million per mile, the reconstruction of I-635 East, better known as LBJ East, has become one of the most expensive and controversial highway projects in the entire country. Yeah, not just in Texas, in the whole United States. And the kicker? Texans hate tolls. They've voted down toll funding statewide, not once, but twice. Yet somehow, this $1.74 billion project leans heavily on dynamic tolling. You can already see where the political storm starts brewing. You've got a road that's absolutely essential for commuters, priced in a way voters don't want, and costing way more than anyone ever expected. This isn't just a construction project. This is a battle over money, mobility, and trust. So let's break this down, because it's one of those projects that reveals way more about politics and infrastructure than just concrete and steel. First, a little backstory. LBJ East isn't some random stretch of pavement. When it first opened in the late 1960s, it was just a modest suburban bypass. Nothing flashy. But as Dallas grew, LBJ East became a critical lifeline. It connects Garland, Mesquite, Lake Highlands, and a bunch of fast-growing suburbs straight into Dallas's business district and airport. That means tens of thousands of commuters rely on it every single day. And that's where the pain sets in. Decades of traffic turned this corridor into one of the most congested roadways in Texas. If you've ever sat in that traffic, you know what I'm talking about. Daily backups, endless brake lights, frustration so thick you could almost taste it. The state's own Clear Lanes initiative ranked it among the worst of the worst. Now, Dallas actually tried to fix part of this back in 2015. The LBJ Express project on the western side of the loop added 6 toll lanes over 13 miles. It cost $2.6 billion. That helped some commuters, sure, but bottlenecks east of US 75 never went away. That's when officials decided, all right, if we're going to fix this, we need to go big. And that's how LBJ East was born. In 2019, TxDOT handed a $1.74 billion contract to Pegasus Link, a joint venture tasked with designing, building, and maintaining the new corridor through 2025. The plan? Add lanes, rebuild interchanges, overhaul frontage roads, and sprinkle in tolling technology to keep traffic moving. It's ambitious, but also incredibly complicated and expensive. Here's where it gets tricky. Texans hate tolls, like really hate them. Polls show tolls are the only highway funding method that most Texans consistently oppose. People feel like they're paying taxes for roads already, so why pay again just to drive on them? Makes sense, right? So when this project leaned on dynamic tolling to close a $643 million funding gap, the backlash was instant. Some residents even called it sleight of hand, as if leaders were bending the will of voters just to slip tolls in through the back door. And honestly, you can't blame them for feeling that way, because when you hear dynamic tolling, what does that sound like? Basically, it's surge pricing for highways. Tolls change in real time depending on traffic. The more cars on the road, the higher the tolls climb. Right now, they hover around 30 to 35 cents a mile. But experts are warning they could climb much higher by 2030. Imagine pulling onto the toll lane and realizing you're paying the price of a decent lunch just to shave a few minutes off your commute. Would you do it? But let's not just harp on the money, because the construction itself is wild. Today, you've got 4 free lanes in each direction. When it's all done, there will be 5. On top of that, there'll be new toll lanes, rebuilt interchanges, continuous frontage roads, and even a massive flyover bridge. That bridge is already a signature piece of the project. 2 steel arches, 60 feet tall, lifting traffic up and over, separating turning movements, and cutting down on those weaving conflicts that drive everyone nuts. Visually, it's impressive. But practically, it's also one of the reasons costs skyrocketed. See, $158 million per mile is way above the Federal Highway Administration's benchmark of $10 million per lane mile. Critics point to the heavy construction in the median, the high-performance concrete designed to last 30 years, and the insanely complex interchange designs. Then you throw in inflation and supply chain issues, and bam, costs go up another $5 million a month. Imagine your rent going up $5 million a month. That's basically what this project is doing to taxpayers. Now, let's talk about induced demand. You've probably heard the phrase before. Build more lanes, get more cars. Critics say that once you widen a highway, people just drive more, and the congestion creeps right back. So, are we spending nearly $2 billion just to end up with the same traffic in a few years? That's a very real concern. And don't get me started on transit. Dallas does have the DART light rail system, which is actually pretty extensive, but it doesn't directly serve the LBJ East corridor. The new Silver Line commuter rail could help a little since it runs parallel, but stations are half a mile or more from the freeway, and trains will only come every 30 to 60 minutes at first. Not exactly a game changer. And buses? They won't even have their own fully dedicated lanes. Just access to the toll lanes, which, again, costs money unless you're carpooling. So if you're waiting for Dallas to pivot hard into transit with this project, don't hold your breath. But here's where things get interesting. Supporters of LBJ East aren't shy about their argument. Without this expansion, mobility in North Dallas will only get worse. Businesses, commuters, and economic growth all depend on moving people east and west. And if you think traffic is bad now, imagine it in 10 years without added capacity. That's their pitch. And when you frame it like that, it's not hard to see why some people back the project. Another point they make is that using a design-build model, basically paying one contractor to handle everything from start to finish, saves almost 2 years compared to the old way of doing things. And when you're talking about a road this congested, shaving 2 years off construction time is no small thing. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the schedule. Officially, TxDOT said LBJ East would be substantially complete by late 2024. But here we are in mid-2025, and if you drive the corridor, it's pretty obvious they're not done. Some community forums are already predicting delays into 2026. And honestly, when it comes to massive infrastructure projects, that's kind of par for the course. But what really bugs people isn't just the delays, it's the lack of clear communication. Texas Department of Transportation's updates are vague at best, and sometimes they contradict each other. So commuters are left wondering, when exactly will this nightmare end? And that brings us full circle to the big question, is this project worth it? On one hand, LBJ East could absolutely transform mobility in Dallas. 5 free lanes, 2 toll lanes, rebuilt interchanges, frontage roads. It's a massive investment in capacity and efficiency. Supporters say dynamic tolling, when done right, really does manage congestion by keeping traffic moving at predictable speeds. That's not nothing. For drivers willing to pay, it's a premium option for reliability. And for the region, it's a chance to support growth and keep the economy humming. But on the other hand, it's hard to ignore the elephant-sized problems. A price tag that blows past federal benchmarks, a reliance on tolling that voters clearly don't want, construction delays that frustrate commuters daily, and the looming threat of induced demand filling all those new lanes back up again. And maybe the biggest challenge of all? Winning back public trust. Because at the end of the day, drivers are footing the bill, whether through tolls or taxes, and if they don't feel like they're getting their money's worth, this project will go down as a cautionary tale. So here's the $1 million, or I guess $1 billion question for you. If you lived in Dallas, would you pay to drive on LBJ East? Or would you stick it out in the free lanes, even if that means sitting in traffic? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is one of those debates where there's no easy answer. And honestly, I'm curious to see where you land. And hey, if you're enjoying deep dives into projects like this, controversial, expensive, and shaping the way we move across America, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got way more stories like this coming your way.